Travis. Welcome to this Guardian build breakdown video. You know what? Let's just hop right into the build. I'll actually explain some things near the end of the video, so stay tuned for that, but let's just go ahead and dive in and I will explain what this build is all about. So, the goal with this build, you want your abilities to practically be up all the time, you want to stay amplified basically all the time, and you just want to be an all-rounded strong Guardian that's hard to kill. With this build, hopefully this convinces you that it can do all that and then some, as well as showing you that this build is right now really popular and that it's a good choice if you really want to get into Arc, because the Arc subclass is all about synergy, it's all about shock, it's all about jolting and having fun, essentially. You gotta go fast, am I right? But for our Warlocks, we basically love to be like Goku, or a Pokemon that knows Hyper Beam. Why? Because we have Chaos Reach, but to be perfectly honest, you can use Storm Trance too. So, I'm just going to say this, use either one of them, both of them work. But for the rest of them, this is what I suggest you use. And it's because I'm actually having a lot of fun with these abilities, aspects, and fragments. I have Healing Rift to keep myself healed continuously, plus it helps with our aspect. I have Burst Glide for that boosted speed. Chain Lightning because, well, we're going to focus more on blinding and jolting, so this helps us with the jolting department. And while Amplified, it gives us an additional web of essentially jolt, which means 2 times the jolt. And Flashbang Grenade for blinding enemies. With our combination of our fragments and our aspects, this will blind and jolt enemies as well. So speaking of aspects, we have Electrostatic Mine. Basically, defeating a jolted or blinded target will create an ionic trace, or defeating targets with arc abilities. So you have 2 different ways of doing it. Technically, this means we have 3 different ways because arc abilities, jolted and blinded, all count towards getting an ionic trace. When you pick them up, that makes you amplified, which really unlocks this build to a whole new level, or brings it up to that. And we also have Arc Soul, laying our rift down, whichever that may be for you. We'll go ahead and spawn in an Arc Buddy, and if you are amplified, your Arc Buddy will be firing more projectiles as well as firing faster. Any kills that your Arc Buddy gets counts as an ability kill, so that means it does have a chance of giving you an ionic trace. And of course, we don't use this Lightning Surge just because it doesn't really help this build. Alright, fragments. These are mainly here just to complement the build, but you can change it to whatever you see is fit. I actually like this because it's very good at being, well, consistent and powerful. So we have Spark of Shock. Grenades will essentially allow enemies to become jolted upon usage. This also helps with stunning overloads. So you have that. We have Spark of Amplitude. While we are amplified, kills that we get will produce Orbs of Power, which means our grenade has a pretty good chance of doing that too, producing Orbs of Power. And Spark of Ions basically guarantees that when we defeat a jolted target, we will get an ionic trace. This, in conjunction with our aspect, Electrostatic Mind, and with Spark of Shock, guarantee that each grenade we throw will give us an ionic trace, unless we get a kill while we're in the middle of the ionic trace cooldown, which this game does give us when we produce too many at a given time. And then of course our last fragment is Spark of Resistance. This gives you a really good level of resistance when you're surrounded by targets. I've already gone through 2 dungeons right now using this exact build with everything, and I'll tell you right now, this Spark of Resistance saved me every time. And because of this fragment, I've been able to finish those dungeons. So let's go ahead and show you the rest of the arsenal and what we have to offer. So I got Chroma Rush, mainly for Wellsprings. For those of you who don't know what Wellspring does, kills with this weapon generate ability energy. This energy is divided between your uncharged abilities. Basically, what they mean by uncharged abilities are abilities that were just recently used. So you just use your melee and you get a kill with this, it will recharge your melee. If you've used all 3 of them and you're waiting for all 3 to come back, then it will divide it based off of whichever one is uncharged the most, or is the least charged. But very good weapon to have, and yeah, just overall, really good weapon. I have the Aikilos SMG. I mainly have this. This is a crafted version of it. I have it for Volt Shot, but you can use weapons like Brigand's Law. I think you can use like another, I think it's the Scout Rifle from Season of the Plunder, or Season of Plunder. It also comes with Volt Shot. And or you essentially could use an arc weapon that has this. It doesn't have to be the crafted ones. It could be any arc weapon really that has Volt Shot. And the reason why I say having Volt Shot is because Volt Shot, after you get a kill with it and you reload it, it can cause an enemy to become jolted. So again, we want to lean in on jolt and blind. So that helps us there. And for our heavy, honestly, you can go with any weapon to be honest. I actually went with Thunderlord because Thunderlord does really good for DPS phases. And with the Catalyst, every time lightning strikes, it will partially reload the magazine from its reserves, and also allows you to extend the duration of using this weapon. And because this is an arc weapon, we can take advantage of ionic traces and stuff like that. So, pretty good to have. Again, I mainly use this just for DPS phases since I'm going through dungeons right now. But if you don't, then you can always use like Trinity Ghoul, or you can use Cold Heart. Cold Heart's really good if you want to lean in on getting your abilities back. That weapon actually gives you ionic traces the longer you use it. So that's a really good way of getting your abilities back. But I have that. I am actually not going over seasonal weapons from this point on, just because seasonal mods are temporary. They're only good for that season, and then once that season passes, then we get a new gambit of mods. So I'm not going to go over them just in case our next season doesn't happen to have things that will favor this subclass. So, speaking of things that could and would favor our subclass, our armor. So, here's our mods. We have Dynamo. Use your Rift near enemies. You start to reduce the cooldown of your super, so you can get it back a little bit faster. You can use Ashes to Assets to gain super energy based off of grenade kills, and you can produce orbs of power from your arc kills. So it has to be rapid arc kills, so 2 or more. And this is why I said that Thunderlord can help. So for our gauntlets, we have firepower. This produces an orb of power when we get kills with a grenade. We have fastball, so it allows us to chuck our grenade a little bit further. And we have harmonic loader, which allows us to increase our reload speed for our arc weapons, including Thunderlord, because anyone who's ever used a heavy machine gun knows it can take a minute to reload the weapon. For our chest, we have Font of Endurance. This comes in twofold. So one, we have this so that way we can have something to spend our armor charges with. Armor charges are gained from picking up orbs of power, and in this case they start to decay when we use something like this, which is what we used to call a consumer mod. And basically what this does is it puts your armor charge at a 10-second decay rates or decay timer, and allows you to gain 3 tiers of resilience. In my case, that's just extra resilience with no additional benefit, just because I already have tier 10. But if you don't have tier 10, then this is a good way to get it that much closer. And and because this is a consumer mod, that means you can pick up an infinite amount of orbs of power. I have harmonic reserves, so this allows me to increase the amount of ammo I can carry for something like the Thunderlord. Harmonic resistance, I just have this just to purely have this, but I would only suggest that you use the appropriate resistance for whatever the current threat, or I guess I forget the other term, but like the threat or whatever is being used at that time. So like for your strikes, nightfalls, and of the like. For our boots, we have insulation. Upon picking up an orb of power, we will gain the following. So we will reduce the cooldown of our class ability. We will reduce the cooldown of our grenade, melee, and class ability. And we will reduce the cooldown of our grenade. All from picking up 1 orb of power. Also, when we use our Healing Rift, or Empowering if you're using that, so when we are using our class ability, we will automatically have the chance to produce an Orb of Power, and we can follow it up with either an ability kill or a weapon kill. Plus, using our class ability allows us to also reduce the cooldown of our grenade. And then of course, when using our Healing Rift or Empowering Rift, if we are near orbs when we use them, then this will send like a little shockwave to essentially go and pick up those orbs, and when it does, we will instantly gain the benefits as if we picked them up ourselves. So that's pretty much the build. The armor of choice here is Vesper of Radius. It's actually a really good and solid choice for exotic armor, and with the update that it has received, has made this thing like top tier at this point. And right now everyone on YouTube is pretty much showing this off, and for good reason. Here's why. So the intrinsic trait Planetary Torrent states that rifts periodically release arc shockwaves. Final blows with these shockwaves creates an arc explosion, which by the way, this does work with any other subclass that you decide to use this with, like Stasis, which I'll put that in this video somewhere. Maybe it'll be an end card or it'll be in the description. And while an arc subclass is equipped, the shockwaves and subsequent explosions will blind nearby targets. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by targets. So as you can see, this build is specializing in getting that class ability back, getting your grenade back really quick. And it comes with the additional benefit of lowering the cooldown for your super, as well as being able to chuck those grenades like no tomorrow to get your super. And yeah, I mean, blinding and jolting, what else can we say? This thing pretty much does that and more. So I would say thank you guys for watching. Oh yeah, I forgot. If you're going to pick some stats to invest into, make sure you invest into your resilience. Having tier 10 resilience gives you a damage reduction of 30%. Always useful to have. And go into discipline. Discipline's really good. This basically dictates when you get your grenade back, which honestly, with how we have this set up, it's kind of a null point, as well as our recovery. And that's why out of all my builds, this is the one that has the lowest recovery, just because Vesper of Radius basically is your recovery stats. You're getting this baby back really quick because you're surrounded by enemies. You gain your Healing Rift back, and plus with the Orbs of Power and picking those up, that gives your Healing Rift back as well as grenades. So overall, consistency is the name of the game. This thing is potent, powerful, and fun to play. So thank you guys for watching, and to give you some, I guess, news of what's going on right now. Kind of doing some doubling or tripling down myself in my studies. I'm in the middle of a career change, and I want to go into software engineering. So right now I'm taking classes. I'm almost done with those classes, by the way, at this point. And I've also applied to a couple places. I'm in the process of studying for a technical evaluation that's coming right around the corner. So that's why you don't see me as much on Destiny 2, or at least making videos, but I do plan on at least trying to spend a day to make these videos for you guys, so just keep that in mind when you don't see them come back or come as often. But yeah, again, please share, like the video, sub to my channel because I will be making more. And once I'm done, or at least when I think I'm done with all the Warlock builds, I will actually move on to my Hunter, just because I think this game does not want me to play as a Hunter. So I will see you guys next time, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you.